Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this World of Warcraft raiding guide, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the 10-man heroic mode version of Elegon in the Mogashan Vaults raid. Now in order to complete this fight we use 2 tanks, 3 healers and 5 DPS. Now unlike normal, I'm not going to be putting up all of the abilities first. Instead what I'm going to do is add them progressively throughout the encounter so that you can see what's going on the screen and compare it to the ability to see how that we handle it while I explain it. Now if you take a look at the kind of area that the boss is standing in, it looks like there's an inner circle and an outer circle. When the fight starts, the inner circle will become enveloped in an ability called Energy Vortex, and this is pretty much your key to the fight, because when you're standing in the Energy Vortex you will gain a buff called Touch of the Titans, which will increase all damage done by 50% and all healing received by 50%. However, it will also apply a debuff to you called Overcharged, and this will increase you to periodically take 5% additional damage. This is a stacking debuff on you, so you do need to drop the stacks at certain points during the fight. I recommend dropping it at about 7 or 8 stacks, and you do this just by moving out of the Energy Vortex and then back in again. Do also bear in mind that on heroic mode, if you're outside of the Energy Vortex for whatever reason, such as dropping your stacks, you will not be able to target Elegon and attack him, or any mob. You cannot attack what's in the vortex when you're not, and what's out the vortex when you're in. So this is a 3-phase fight, so first things first, we're going to start with stage 1, and stage 1 will end when the boss is both at 85% and 50% remaining health. Now, you guessed right, this boss is a dragon, so of course he has some kind of frontal cone breath ability, and this is called Celestial Breath, and it will inflict 65,000 arcane damage, or 200,000 in total, if you count the pulses, so it's every 0.5 seconds for 1.5 seconds, roughly 200,000 arcane damage, to players that are standing within a 60-degree cone and a 100-yard long radius. Don't stand in front of the boss unless you're a tank, it won't end well for you. Throughout phase 1, Elegon will spawn little mobs, well they're not really little, they're kind of big and hurt, called Celestial Protectors, and this is kind of where your tanks get to reset their overcharged stacks as well. So you get one tank that takes the boss, one tank that takes the mob. You want to keep the mob within the Energy Vortex until it's got less than 25% health, because if you take it out before that, you'll inflict 90% less damage to it. When the mob's got less than 25% health, your tank runs out of the Energy Vortex, resets his overcharged stacks, and 1 DPS runs out and kills the mob with the tank. We'll go over why 1 DPS runs out later on in the video. This Celestial Protector will also cast an ability called Arcing Energy, and this will hit 3 random players, inflicting 100,000 arcane damage, and it will also apply a debuff called Closed Circuit to each target. The Closed Circuit debuff will reduce the healing received by 50% for 20 seconds. However, it is a magic effect, so I believe your healers can dispel it. They will need to look out for that ability. Now the next ability that the mob has, it has a lot of abilities, too many really, is called Stability Flux. Now this is when the mob reaches 25% health, it will begin to pulse energy and periodically inflict 65,000 arcane damage to all players. 25% is also the same point when you want your tank to be taking the mob out of the Energy Vortex and into the area where you reset your overcharge stacks. When the mob is almost dead, it will begin to cast Total Annihilation, and in heroic mode, Total Annihilation will apply a debuff called Destabilizing Energies. Also, if it hits no targets, it will trigger an ability called Catastrophic Anomaly. This is where you want one person to be soaking the damage from the Total Annihilation, and we'll speak about that in a few moments. When the Celestial Protector is about to cast Total Annihilation, you want someone to move out of the Energy Vortex and everyone else to move in. This is because you need a rotation setup of players, so to speak. So you need 4 people that can negotiate 500,000 damage, such as a Paladin with a bubble, I believe Hunters with Deterrence is it, the one where they have the shiny blades going around them, Mages possibly with Cauterize and Temporal Shield, possibly Ice Block as well. You'll need to set up a rotation of about 4 people, as you're hoping to only get 4 Celestial Protectors spawn throughout the raid. Now, the healers do need to be aware of an ability called Destabilizing Energies, which is a debuff that will be placed on the player that gets hit by Total Annihilation, and it will stun them and inflict 45,000 arcane damage every 2 seconds until they've been healed to 80% of their maximum health. Obviously that's only your healer's job, unless of course you're a mage and Temporal Shield heals you up stupidly fast because of the amount of damage you've taken. Now if you do take the Total Annihilation, then you'll be also placed with a debuff called Destabilized. and this pretty much means you can't take another total annihilation for the rest of the fight, because if you do, it instantly kills you. And if absolutely no one takes the damage from the total annihilation, the ability Catastrophic Anomaly will be cast. Suddenly went American there. And this will inflict 950,000 arcane damage to the entire raid, which in layman's terms is a wipe. And now we're going to move on to phase 2, and during phase 2 his first ability is called Draw Power, and this is where Elegon will spawn these little energy charges from his body, and this is where the world markers that you've probably seen around the room come into play. We have 6 world markers which go to where the 6 energy charges will go, and you want 1 DPS, maybe a tank as well on each side to be assigned to each marker. Maybe even 2 tanks assigned to one marker and 5 DPS assigned to another one. And by doing this, you need to kill off the energy charges as they make their way to the outer edge of the arena. If you manage to kill all 6, then it will increase the damage taken by Elegon by 10% for the remainder of the fight, and this is a stacking effect. You want to be looking to kill around 4 waves of these, as they do get faster as they move out, and you do need the increased damage on the boss in order to meet enrage timers. For each cast of energy charges, the boss will increase the rate at which they move closer to the edge by 20%, and this is also stacking. Another note for the healers is when the energy charges are actually killed, they will explode and inflict 35,000 arcane damage to everyone in the raid, so it's a really healer intensive fight. Now if and when an energy charge does reach the outer vortex, it will spawn 6 Imperial focuses around the room, and these will spawn on the same 6 points where you've got your world markers. And you need to kill all of these off at the same time roughly in order to enter phase 1 again, or the final phase if the boss is less than 50% health. Now these pillars will create a kind of line which will separate the room. It divides the room into 6 or so kind of sectors, and if you walk into one of these lines, which goes by the name of Energy Conduit, it will deal 475,000 arcane damage to you. Don't do that. It will hurt quite a bit. Now, when the Imperial Focus reaches obviously 0 health, the boss will gain an ability called Overloaded, and this will increase his damage inflicted by 20% and his casting speed by 20%, and this is a stacking effect. This is why you only want to have this phase happen to you at tops maybe twice, because his damage will become too much to heal through. And of course, as I've mentioned, all of the focusers' health is linked, and they all have to be brought to 0 health at the same time. So this requires communication on Vent, TeamSpeak, just in general to get the boss killed. Throughout phase 3, Elegon will also cast an ability called Unstable Energy, which will periodically inflict 25,000 arcane damage to everyone in the raid. And the boss's final ability in phase 3 is called Energy Cascade, and this is pretty much a circular kind of area on the floor will be targeted, and he will fire an arcane ball at that area, and if you're standing in it, it'll inflict 225,000 arcane damage to anyone that's in it, or standing within 5 yards. Now when the ball lands, it will create a little mob called a Cosmic Spark. Now it's ideal for phase 3 if you can get 1 tank on each side of the room, because quite a few Cosmic Sparks will be spawned, and they'll need to be picked up by the tank and AoE'd down by the DPS, as soon as possible preferably. And finally, the first of the last 2 abilities for this boss goes by the name of Grasping Energy Tendrils, and this pretty much means that if no one is in melee range of the boss, he will pull everyone into the centre of the room, which will be on top of him, and inflict 350,000 arcane damage. It's pretty much a wipe. You can't really... well, you could survive that damage if your healers were boss, but 9 out of 10 times it will be a wipe. And the boss's final ability is called Radiating Energies, and this will occur when the boss reaches 50% remaining health. This will periodically inflict 25,000 arcane damage to all players who are within the energy vortex, and 75,000 arcane damage to all players who are outside of the vortex. Now when the boss reaches 50% health, or starts casting Radiating Energies, you'll know because the outer ring of the room, it goes bright purple. And at this point you want everyone to stack up on top of each other with the boss faced away by a tank obviously, in the middle of the room, so you can AoE heal your tits off pretty much. because this is the phase of all phases. It's where shit goes down and the damage goes out. Obviously, you will hopefully have a 90% damage increase on the boss at a push, maybe 100, depending on how many of the draw power little orbs you manage to kill. But yeah, this is it. This is where you want to use your bloodlust, your pre-pots, or your pots, and your healers need to AoE heal like mad. So that's going to do it for this raiding guide. If you do have any questions about this encounter, then please feel free to ask me about it in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching, and if you're interested in future Mr. Pandaria raiding guides, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel.